Welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. This show is about the life lessons that shape us, what I've learned, what I'm still learning, and how we grow through challenge, awareness, and purpose. I will share personal insights to motivate and inspire you, and sometimes invite guests who do the same. At its heart, Life Talk is about real stories, real growth, and meaningful connection. This is Life Talk with Mariette. Motivational, inspirational, full of heart. Enjoy the show. And welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Camera. On the web, lifetalkwithmariette.com. The doctor is in. Ask Dr. Chris. When the past won't let you go. That's our topic tonight. What happens when the past won't let you go? We will find out tonight. Some memories fade. Others live right under the skin, a sound, a face, a scent, and suddenly you're back in the moment you thought was long gone. Dr. Chris Gilbert helps us understand why the body remembers even when the mind tries to move on, and how healing begins the moment we stop running from the past and start making peace with it. Dr. Chris Gilbert, MD, PhD, author of 10 books. Thank you for being with us tonight, Dr. Chris. How are you?
Oh, great, Mariette. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Carl Del Spina, entrepreneur and Life Talk contributor. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, Marietta, and good evening, Doctor.
Nice to have you here, too. And Gene Thompson should join us shortly, so I will introduce him as soon as he joins us. So let's get started. We all have PTSD. We have lots of questions for the doctor. We're covering in our segments anxiety, overthinking mind, emotional burnout, depression, not necessarily in this order, but similar to it. So you're tuned into Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. The doctor is in the house. When the past won't let you go is our topic. So according to some research I've done, the World Health Organization estimates that 1 in 5 people living in conflict zones suffers from a mental health condition, and about 1 in 10 develops PTSD or severe depression. You don't need to live in a war zone to be touched by trauma. Economic instability, violence in the media, political chaos, and personal loss create a shared emotional climate of insecurity. We all absorb it, and unless processed, it shows up as anxiety, emotional numbness, or fractured relationships. So, I'm so happy to have Dr. Chris with us, and let me get started with asking some questions. Dr. Chris, what actually happens in the brain during PTSD?
Yeah. Well, actually, what is PTSD, right,
Yes.
Mariette? So it says post-traumatic stress disorder. So what is that? It's a mental health condition that can develop after somebody experiences or witnesses a traumatic event, such as combat. It could be physical assault, it could be sexual assault, it could be natural disasters, it could be serious accidents or other life-threatening situations. So PTSD is characterized by intense, distressing reactions that persist long after the event. Usually lasting over 1 month. So what could it be? What symptoms? It could be like intrusive memories, like flashbacks, like reliving the trauma. It could be nightmares. It could be distressing thoughts or images. It could be avoidance, like avoiding reminders or places that remind you of the stressor, people that remind you of the stressor, conversations that remind you of what happened. It could also be that people have, as you said, emotional numbing or detachment. It could also be negative changes in the mood or thinking, like people could feel guilt or could feel shame or could feel hopelessness. And they could become depressed with loss of interest in activities. But it could also be that they have hyperarousal, like they're more irritable, or they're more angry, or they're always on alert, or they could have trouble sleeping or trouble concentrating. So those are all the symptoms, and the when we do an fMRI, there's parts of the brains that light up. They do light up when people think about those events or memories.
Hmm. I just want to acknowledge our good friend Gene Thompson, who just joined us in the studio. He's a LifeTalk contributor, an entrepreneur, and thank you for joining us, Gene. Good evening.
Hi, Mariette. Hello, all.
Okay,
Hi,
you know
Jean.
Carl.
Hi,
You know,
Hey.
Gene.
Hey, how
yes,
you doing?
yes, and of course, our topic is when the past won't let go. So I
Mhm.
have asked Jean to also just ask if you have a question, please just let me know. I have a question, and I clear the field. In other words, I will
Okay.
shut up. So,
Okay.
Jean, you just heard our doctor explain what PTSD is. What
Mhm.
is your question right now?
My question is, I understand PTSD. I have family members who've been in the military who have it. I've known people who've gone through sexual trauma. I've known people who've gone through financial trauma. So my question is, there's many levels to um, like mental trauma. So how does each of these play out, and why is it some people are able to cope with it better than others?
Well, some people can create self-care, and self-care is like create a sense of safety, practice grounding, practice relaxation, practice breathing, practice mindfulness or gentle stretching. And some people have routine, sleep routine, food routine. And some people can easily connect with others. They have supporting friends, family. They talk with people.
Mhm.
And some other people don't cannot do that. Some other people do need more intense treatment. They do need therapy. They're going to need cognitive behavioral therapy or prolonged exposure therapy or cognitive processing therapy. There are different therapy that I can explain
Mhm.
and spend more time about that. And for some other people, that's not enough. And some other people need medications like SSRIs, the antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and for some other people that cannot access their self-care, their grounding force, some people that cannot access a therapist, then they will need to seek help if they get into very intense depression. Some people get suicidal thoughts and they will need
Mhm.
to, call 988 for the suicide and crisis lifeline. So there are
Mhm.
different degrees of what people can do with their
Yeah.
feeling, and depending on what intensity they were exposed to, also.
Right. What
Okay.
came to mind while I was putting the show together, the people in Ukraine who have lived with this day in, day out, 24/7, this war and this survival for over three,
Yes.
4 years. Look at them. Look at our instability right now, what is created out of Washington. And last night,
Mhm.
it was yesterday afternoon on CNN, they were interviewing a person um, from from the air traffic controllers, and this gentleman shared that an air traffic controller had taken his life.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, uh, people that are on food stamps, they're being made fun of. One lady I remember on TV, her monthly benefits were just $65. People depend on every dime. A lot of people
Absolutely.
that are in the higher income brackets, they can't even relate to that. So
True.
I cried. I cried when I heard that he said, I have authorization from the wife from the wife of an air traffic controller who took his own life, to share the story. She has not come on herself. And I cried because
Mm.
people's threshold, it's different. Everybody's
Yeah,
threshold is just different. And
absolutely.
where other people say, "Oh, that's nothing," well, that's because we have different thresholds, you know? So, Carl, I'm asking you, do you have any questions for the doctor at the moment?
Uh, Not really, but I mean, my mind is constantly filled with questions on how I'm going to deal with what I do. Um, for the last 55 years, I sleep for 3 hours, and that's it.
Wow.
And then I get up because I was trained for a year and a half to do 3 hour shifts on guard duty. And
Mhm.
so that's all there is to it. I go to bed at 9, and sometimes I get up at 1, sometimes I get up at 12:30. So it really doesn't matter. That's a set for me.
Mhm.
As far as that goes, I don't remember, and I know that everyone dreams, and everyone dreams all the time when you're asleep, but I don't have any of those real nightmares. I kind of buried it when I got back. So, and I kept it buried for, I got back in 1971, and I was in the parade in 1985 in New York City. And when I got down to the end of the parade at Battery Park, there were more tears than I had ever seen in my life.
Mm.
I couldn't believe the emotions that these guys were having. And it's just, I can't explain it. Uh, it's difficult to explain to somebody who's never done anything like this before. So remember, I started off in high school as a surfer, and then and then they put a
Right.
rifle in my hand, and I had
Wow.
no clue what to do with it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was a very interesting experience for me. And like I was saying before we left, that I was on what they call a gun truck, which had, uh, uh, which is a deuce and a half, which is a 2.5 ton truck. You see them in the movies all the time with the canvas top with the troops in the back, and they move the troops around, and then all of a sudden the back tailgate opens up and the guys jump out. You take
Mhm.
that canvas top off and you take the gates around the edges off, and you put steel plate all in that back uh, square. And in the front, you put a 50 caliber machine gun, and in the back, you put a 50 caliber machine gun, and on the side, you put twin 60 machine guns. And you don't have a seat; you have ammo boxes to sit on,
Mm.
and off and away you go. And there's nothing like hearing ping, ping, ping up against that steel. Let me tell you,
Wow.
it does a number on you.
Mhm.
Wow. I can
Thank you.
imagine.
Thank you,
Yeah.
And
Carl.
not to mention, it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity. And so it's you stand up in order to get a breeze, and the truck is governed. So the fastest it can go is, if you're lucky, 50 miles an hour.
Right. Now, I have a question. Thank you, Carl. I have a question for the doctor. Is medication always needed? Um,
No, no. Medication is not always needed. Uh, and I want to say that the sooner people address the issue, the less time they wait, the better, usually the better outcome there is. Some people, some men will not be able to talk after combat for years and years, and their scars are really mental, emotional scars are very, very deep, and it's very hard for them to heal. But if they talk, or if they seek advice or a counselor, or talk to a friend right when the event happens, then it's easier. It's easier to treat, it's easier to get out of. So the sooner it's addressed, the better it is. But yeah, I understand, Carl, what you lived through is horrible, really horrible.
I never told anyone I was a vet, not for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was one of the ones. I made it in 10 months. I made it all the way up to sergeant, and I was proud to wear that uniform on the plane home when I got released, and I left out of Seattle and could only get an airplane down to Texas and then a connecting to Tennessee and then back to New York City. And each time I got on the plane, the girls put me up in first class. And yeah, and on the way to New York City, though, one of the flight attendants came up to me and said, "Do you have civilian clothes?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I tell you what, go put them on." And I said, "But why? Are you kidding?" She said, "No." So I had to live with that. And that kind of stuck in my brain all the time when I got off the plane, so I wouldn't get harassed.
I have to ask you because I didn't get it, Carl. Why did she ask you to change into civilian clothes? I didn't get it.
Well, because when I got back, it was 1971
Right.
in May, and there was still protests going on about the war. And remember, we were called baby killers. Uh, for what reason, I'm not sure, because I don't think I ever saw any one of the troops ever in my lifetime do anything like that. As a matter of fact, all I saw was guys helping women and helping babies and girls, out of harm's way all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carl. I'm going to go for a quick break, and after the break, we're going to talk about anxiety and the overthinking mind. So don't touch that dial, don't touch anything. We'll be right back. And we're back from our break. I'm Mariette Camera. In the studio is Dr. Chris, Jean Thompson, and our good friend Carl Del Spina. And yes, we're talking about when the past won't let you go and the doctor is in the house. Why does anxiety make us feel out of control, doctor?
Well, that's a good question, Mariette. Well, anxiety is your body's natural stress response. But when the stress becomes chronic and overwhelming, then the anxiety becomes chronic and overwhelming. And that can lead to constant worry and overthinking. And that's a state where your mind loops through the what ifs or worst case scenario or regrets. And the overthinking and anxiety often fuel each other. So the anxiety will trigger overthinking, the overthinking will maintain anxiety, and this cycle can cause fatigue, restlessness, muscle tension, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, or even panic attacks. And this can, there are a lot of causes or triggers that can do that.
So the anxious thoughts, they're in a loop. They're in a loop
Yes.
Endlessly, I would imagine.
Yes, that's
That's why
correct.
you're in that state. Now, can anxiety be inherited as well?
It could be, well, there are two parts. It could be in the genes that somebody will be anxious easily from the genes, but it's also depending if your mother, when you were in the womb, if your mother was very, very anxious, that is going to create some changes in hormones also inside the womb. And the child, the baby, will tend to be anxious as a result of that. So it's complex. It's not as simple. And then what happens at birth, depending on the stress of the mother, the reaction of the mother at birth, that can also weigh in. So it's a complex mechanism.
My daughter, Heidi, had a lot of anxiety, and just she compartmentalizes a lot. So when she had Sophie cried steady for 3 months. There was nothing she could do. She would hold her, of course, but she could not calm her down for 3 months. For 3 months, that's very, very interesting. Jean, I'd like to bring you in.
Yes. I have a question, Dr. Gilbert. Let's
Yes.
see. I know dealing with something trauma mentally, it's a form of programming. So why is it so difficult? The programming can almost instantly over a short period of time, but why does it take so long for a person to reverse and come out of that? Is it that like Mariette was saying that the process just goes over and over in your mind because it was so horrendous? Or why isn't it like you can't reverse exactly the way you went in and come out, you know, on the other side in a shorter time? Because some people, you may go through trauma for a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even shorter than that, but it may take 50 years or 60 years to sometimes shorter to come out of it. And why is that?
It depends how long the trauma lasts. If the trauma lasts a long time, or several days, or several weeks, then there is a rewiring of the brain that happens
Exactly.
with the neurons will rewire together to create that anxiety. And once the wiring happens and gets established, uh, day after day after day, it's difficult to unwire that, especially when it has not been wired before. So if a healthy wiring has been done before, then
Mm-hmm.
it could be easier to do. But if no healthy
Yeah.
wiring has been done before, then that unhealthy wiring is solid, and the longer it stays like this, the more difficult it is to unwire.
Uh-huh. But why is it um, so much heavier, like you said, or more intense than, say, a good thing that you were like programmed or wired with? Why is the thing that's either bad or evil or whatever? Why does it consume you more than, say, something good that happened to you?
Yeah, for some reason, the brain, whenever it's something happy or nice, it doesn't get into a loop uh, of memories for that. It gets into a loop of memories usually when it's something bad. For some reason, they feel guilty, or they feel that somebody else is at fault, and that is what captures their mind, their brain, their neurons. And it's like hatching a groove in your
Uh-huh.
brain. The more it loops, the more it hatches a groove,
Really?
and that's the image I can give.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas happiness doesn't hatch. It's more difficult for happiness to hatch grooves. You've got to work at it more. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
really be in the moment and say, "Oh, this is the moment I feel so happy. Let me remember that moment." And then you can start hatching a groove inside the brain. But otherwise, people usually don't. They tend to hatch grooves when they're negative thinking.
Wow. So
That happens. Sorry to interrupt you, but Jean, that happens to
Mhm.
me too on occasions
Mhm.
when somebody is really has something has really hit me to the core.
Mhm.
Somebody said something and it
Uh-huh.
rubbed me the wrong way. So at first I ignored, and then at night in bed, I start thinking. And that thought comes from all different angles at me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
over and over again. And I can't sleep then. And it really it causes a lot of uproar, internal uproar. And so and I can't even control my mind because it's on automatic. I think everybody
Mhm.
goes through that if they really think about it. Carl, I like to bring you in. You have
Sure.
thoughts like that too? You're only
Oh yeah. What are you
three
talking about? Are
hours.
you kidding me? Um, yeah, I found that, for instance, all the things that a few of the traumatic experiences that I've had,
Mm,
I got rid of by smoking pot,
mm,
and it really helped me, settle down. And I don't think that I spent a day without smoking pot for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, Recently, I've given it up. A lot of people think that it's addictive. It's not like a drug. It's not like a chemical drug. It's more like a relaxer. And you can give it up, by the way. There is not really a problem. You can give it up for a little while and then you can go back to it. But the things that I get involved in bettering myself in things and not thinking about what had happened. And so I continue on to look to better things. I mean, I got into music very heavily, and
Hmm.
that took over my life for about 15 years. And it was very calming for me because I never told anybody about anything that I had done. So I wasn't really, I was just dealing with it my own way. I just took control of it in my own form, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do, Carl, because what is good is to use that energy, that energy like Mariette that you're talking about when you're thinking at night. Use that energy and create something with it. Create something like create a song or create a dance or what I do personally when I'm very angry or when I'm hyper excited about something and I can't stop thinking about it. I take up my punching bag and boxing gloves and I punch my punching bag with those thoughts and that takes it out. You've got to take it out of the brain and transform it into some kind of energy, either punching the punching bag or create a song or create a dance or uh, create something or a painting or drawing, but get it out of the body. Because
Yeah.
if it's a negative idea, if it stays in the body, it could destroy, it could do damage in the body. But if you get it out, then it's not going to damage the body, and it could be something very beautiful and very cathartic.
I had a lot of help with 15 years of martial arts. It allowed me. I did it about 4 nights a week, and for about maybe 2 or 3 hours each night, and it relaxes you and it changes your perspective on uh, yourself and bettering yourself all the time. And your breathing in and out calms you down. And so I didn't have to worry about anything. So I took control of it for myself.
That's exactly right. That was perfect. Perfect. So one perfect way of dealing with what you lived through. Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was going to say you got 3 hours of sleep, but the 3 hours is actually really good because one full cycle of sleep is 1.5 hour. So 1 hour and a half. So you get in 3 hours, you get two full cycle of sleep, which is great. If you were going to tell me I only get like 45 minutes, I would have said that's not good because 45 minutes is only half a cycle of sleep. That would not be good.
Yeah.
But you get two
Hmm.
full cycles. That's good.
Yeah, well, I had learned that if you think of yourself as a puppet on a string, and the string is coming up through your head, and you relax your entire body and just let it limp, and all of a sudden you fall asleep, and you fall asleep into a I would fall asleep into a deep sleep and not be woken up until 3 hours later.
Mhm.
literally.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually good. This is a normal cycle of the body, of the brain. The 3 hours is actually good.
I like to mention something, and it's actually a confession I like to make, but it's okay because maybe a lot of people are the way the way I am. Now, there is something internally that when I do work and I have to communicate with people through email and ask them a question that I really need, I need their information in order to go forward. So, and since my makeup is I take care of things right away. So it's not because I have extra time. That's just the way I am. I make the time to if you correspond with me, I immediately respond. Doesn't mean I'm sitting there waiting for you to write to me. That's not what I'm saying. But this is the way I operate. So naturally, I think everybody's like that. And they're not. And when I'm waiting for just a very simple information that I need in order for me to go forward, and I have to wait 2 days for it, that's self-induced anxiety. And I get so mad inside. I can't tell you how mad I get that I had to wait two 2 days for a very simple, for let's say a date. I was looking for a date to do something on one particular date, and I had to reach out to a person, and it took them 2 days to answer correspondence. Can you imagine that? And they're not. They're in business. They're in business, so they're used to taking care of emails and everything. So I like to do things right away. And I do know that's not everybody's style. Some people they answer quicker by texting them instead of answering phones or emails or whatever. So everybody has their own little style how they communicate. But this is something, and I really have to calm myself down. And I really get seriously very angry that I haven't heard from them. And I deal with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this is self-induced. It's self-induced, right, Dr. Chris?
Yeah, I guess it is self. Well, I must admit that I'm just like you. So I function exactly the same. So if somebody takes a long time to answer an email, I'm the same way, and I tend to answer right away also when I can. But that's because I otherwise I will forget. If I wait 2 days, I mean,
Exactly.
I'll have so many emails piling up, I will forget to answer. So.
Right. But it
But
is
in show business, because I'm also part in show business, sometimes it takes 1 month to answer. So,
Wow.
so it's interesting. It's
by that
interesting.
time my joy is gone, my interest is gone. And this is
Yes.
a lot of people that work for companies. Their style is, and this is what, and here's what it is. I got the answer because I did a show this morning and I zero in on various industry and whether they have a fast pace or a slow pace. So, and that really gave me the answer too. The mindset of people, if they work in a fast pace industry, such as healthcare and everything, doctors' offices and everything, that's a fast pace environment. They got to move and shake because they're confronted with it, every single second, whether it's the patient or the dog or the cat or the team member or the insurance people. It's a fast pace, but the people that I wrote to, they're in a slow pace environment.
Mm.
That doesn't mean they're all like that, but at least two of them, without naming the industries. So at least two of them. And I said, do they really have that much to do that they can't answer a simple question? Look at the darn calendar and say, is Thursday okay at 10 o'clock or, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? What the heck? No, I guess till the day I die, I'm going to be like that because a mover and shaker, we won't get things done if we were stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. You can't do that. What is this? Anyway, enough with me. But I do have to calm myself down. But it's not without getting really, really pissed. Anyway, Let me just go for a quick break, and after the break, emotional burnout we're going to talk about. So don't touch the dial. We'll be right back. We're back from our break. I'm Mariette Camera, your host, When the Past Won't Let Go. That's our topic tonight with Dr. Chris Gilbert, Gene Thompson, and Carl Del Spina. I almost made a Paul out of you. I'm sorry, Carl.
It's amazing. I introduced myself as my name is Carl, and people will say, Paul?
Yeah,
Wow.
Where
that's
did
your
you
middle
get that
name.
from? Where
That's
did
a
you
middle.
get that from? I can't begin to tell you how many times I've heard that, really.
Oh, maybe you were sending your thoughts to me. That's why it did, because anyway, it's okay. Let's talk about emotional burnout. Question for the doctor. What exactly is burnout, Dr. Chris?
So, emotional burnt out is a state of mental, physical, and emotional depletion caused by prolonged stress, often from work or being a caregiver or a constant emotional strain. And it happens when you give more of yourself than you can replenish. So, the common symptoms are feeling numb, detached, or hopeless, or it could also be that you're feeling irritable, you have difficulty concentrating or making decisions, can have loss of motivation, loss of joy, feeling depressed. Could be physical symptoms like chronic fatigue, headaches, stomach issues, or muscle tension. Could be trouble sleeping or oversleeping or not sleeping enough. It could be behavioral signs like withdrawing from others, procrastinating or avoiding tasks, or it could be increased use of caffeine, alcohol, or comfort food, like eating all the time. So this is when you can recognize that you have emotional burnout or emotional exhaustion.
Can burnout be mistaken for depression too?
It could be. You could feel that you don't have any energy, no joy in doing anything, and so that's the classical depression. But when you ask where does it come from, how did you get there, then you can understand by studying the mechanism of how you got there that it was from emotional burnout.
Mm-hmm. Carl, I have a question, if you don't mind me asking. Do you sometimes just sit very still, very quiet, no radio, you're not listening to anything, just very, very quiet, and you start reviewing your thoughts? Do you ever do that?
What I was just doing that. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, keep going.
Of course I do. Of
Yeah,
course I do. But
yeah.
you know what? I think that that's one of the differences between a lot of people is I can be alone. I have no problems with that
Mm,
whatsoever. And I don't think bad thoughts though. I constantly am putting things together for myself, constantly wanting
mm,
to do something, and so I think of ways to do other things. I'm a woodworker, so I love building boxes out of scrap wood, or I like putting together music. I like making people dance, and so I think of things like going online and listening to different songs that I could mix into another song
mhm,
just to keep the people on the floor.
mhm.
Hmm.
Now, I know Gene, our friend Gene, you're an artist. You're also a composer. You write music. You're a musician. How does that work with you to be creative?
As far as burnout is the
N-
question.
no, in order for you to be creative, what does your environment have to look like? Now, I need stillness to be creative and to review my thoughts, which I do daily, and I take it very serious. And I like my thoughts. I look at everything, the positive and the negative. And the negative, I have to immediately, get rid of, and I have to find a solution. But it's not about me now. I wanted to ask you, because you still write music, Gene, do you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, I do.
So what does your environment have to look like in order to be creative, in order to write music?
For me personally, it has to be not has to be, but most of the time I have to be at peace in mind, unless I'm writing something negative or aggressive lyrically or chord wise and melodically. But most of the time I have to have peace of mind and have to be in we call it like flow. I have to be able to release myself, my inner self in my son he takes karate too, Carl. But anyway, he calls it chi. It's where your whole, whoever you are, you transform that over into whatever you're doing. If you're an artist with a paintbrush, the inner you comes out through your hands, through the brush, through the paint, and it becomes active and alive on the canvas. With music, it's the other way around. You release yourself. Say I'm playing keyboards. The feeling of what I'm having, I have to be in the right frame of mind for that tonal event that I'm going for, that feeling, that emotion. And then I apply my hands to the keyboard, I relax, and I breathe my inner self through my fingers, and the electricity or the life or whatever it is, it flows through the instrument and onto the tape or digital recorder or whatever. So I have to be in a good frame of mind to do that. If not, some days I'll just sit there and nothing will come out at all
I
because I'm
completely
just not in
identify
the.
with that. I completely identify with that. When I'm practicing my mixes, I will think of one of the clubs that I used to work at and mix to that crowd and pick the songs for that. And so it's total concentration just for that.
Mhm. And
Carl,
being
you
in the
might,
right frame of mind.
sorry to interrupt you. You might want to briefly explain what you mean by that to our audience. And
Oh,
Dr. Chris, you might what you've done in the 80s, what your work was all about. But be brief about it. We have about 6 minutes left in the show.
okay. Well,
All right.
for about 14 years, I lived in Manhattan for about 35 years. I lived on the Upper East Side. And for 14 years of that, I was a club DJ. And so I went to all the big clubs and I would play at places like Limelight or Studio 54 or the China Club or any of the big clubs I was at. And so for me to be able to sit down and practice, I would have to think of the club that I would be at and the kind of people that I would be watching in order to pick the music.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And you were quite an asset to the clubs because you really had a big say as far as people spending money, drinking,
Right. There was
according to
no
what
food.
music you, oh,
Right.
no
There
food.
was no
Okay.
food, and I had to control the floor. And so what I would do is I would change up the music so the people who don't like that particular song would get down and go to the bar, and the people at the bar would then get onto the floor.
Ah, okay.
Don't laugh. I'm absolutely serious.
Wow.
My sound engineer would do 65 decibels and 80 octaves. It would make you thirsty and it would make your ass move.
Wow.
That's funny. That's
No, it's
something.
true. It's absolutely true. Sound waves do that.
So you had to
Um,
have some understanding of human nature.
Yes.
Okay.
but
And
is this
it made it easy for me though, because I was in retail for a long time and I got to read people's emotions and the way they dressed and the way they walked, and I could pick out their personalities. And so that's the way I picked the music.
Dr.
Okay.
Chris? What do you say to that?
I love it. I
Yeah,
just
I
love
do too.
it.
I do
Uh,
too.
But what intrigues me is how about putting PTSD, the experience of PTSD, or the experience of emotional burnout into that tunnel and creating that music from that? How
That's
wonderful would that
correct.
be? You know,
That's correct.
that would be wonderful, really,
I
really
think that I was
powerful.
mostly burying the PTSD though.
Yeah, I know, but what about unleashing? What about unburying it and getting it through that tunnel and creating something? How powerful would that be? That would be, I'm just imagining. I just don't know.
Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, get with it, Carl. Come on, let's make let's make a commitment here to everybody. You have all these witnesses here, all our viewers, 1 million viewers and listeners we have. Come on.
Well, well, it was. I would just pick up a song that would make everyone sing along to, that they knew the words to, and was upbeat. Anything from 120 beats per minute up to 133 beats per minute, and those are the ones that gets everybody excited. And then to drop what they call drop the needle on a different record and change the mood entirely. So it was an advantage that I had in order to drive uh, uh, the emotions on the floor. And you should have seen some of the emotions I've seen.
We just heard Carl talk about his purpose and what makes him tick. And I just wanted to take the opportunity. Purpose is not a luxury. It's not something we chase only when life is calm or when the kids are grown or when the business is finally running smooth. Purpose is the anchor that keeps us steady in the middle of everything: success, loss, confusion, and change. And without it, people don't just feel lost, they drift. We have to have a purpose because purpose gives us life direction, structure, and meaning. It helps us wake up in the morning with a sense of, this is why I'm here. And that feeling is more powerful than motivation because motivation comes and goes. Purpose stays. Many people think purpose to be has to be a big something glamorous, something the world applauds. But real purpose is often simple, quiet, and deeply personal. It can be the purpose of caring for a family, creating something meaningful, helping others, building a business that impacts your community, or guiding people with your knowledge and experience. Purpose is not measured in size. Purpose is measured in impact, especially the impact on your own well being. Why do we need purpose? Because human beings do not thrive on routine alone. We don't thrive on money alone or on comfort alone. From the time we are children, we look for meaning. We look for connection. We look for something to move toward. Purpose satisfies that inner drive. And when we have it, we feel aligned. When we lose it, we feel empty. Think about the time in your life when things felt off. Chances are the real problem wasn't stress or even exhaustion. It was a lack of direction. You can work hard every day and still feel unfulfilled if you don't know the why you're doing what you're doing. People who retire often experience this shock. The calendar is suddenly empty, the structure disappears, and they realize that without purpose, even free time becomes meaningless. Some start to age faster, some become depressed. But when retirees find a new purpose, a volunteer role, a hobby that becomes a mission, a project that helps others, they come back to life. Their energy changes, their health changes, their outlook changes. Purpose strengthens the mind, the spirit, and even the body. Purpose also gives us resilience. Life will always bring challenges, health issues, financial stress, job loss, grief, relationship pain. Without purpose, Those challenges knock us down and keep us down. But when people have a reason to get back up, they do. Survivors always talk about purpose. They say things like, I had to stay alive for my children, or I started that charity because I never wanted anyone else to feel what I felt, or losing that job pushed me into what was meant to do, what I was meant to do. Purpose turns pain into direction. It turns chaos into clarity. And I'm wiping my tears as I'm telling you this because it's so true. And another reason we need purpose, it connects us to others. When you know what you stand for, you begin to attract people with similar goals, values, and energy. That's how community forms. That's how support networks grow. Purpose is the bridge that links us to the right people, and the right people elevate us, encourage us, and walk alongside us. So let's get back to the show. You know, to wrap up the show, I do want to mention I have had tremendous adversity in my life. What I had to overcome. It actually would fill several shows, but I don't have that much time left here in the show today. But what helped me was to find a very, very deep purpose in my life. And that is to help other people with what I conquered, what I have overcome in life. That is my very, very deep purpose. You heard me, you saw me get emotional. You heard me get emotional. And when it comes to purpose, there is no other way. And my creativity. My creativity has been my lifesaver. And I can't tell you how happy I am to have individuals, professionals like Dr. Chris. I've been working with her for over 7 years, not 17 years, 7 years. So, and what we learned today, that the past doesn't just live in our memories. It lives in our bodies, our reactions, and sometimes in the silence we keep. Dr. Chris reminded us that trauma is not the sign of weakness. It's a sign that something deeply human happened and hasn't yet found safety. Healing begins when we understand what our brain and body are trying to tell us, and when we give ourselves permission to feel without fear. The past may shape us, but it does not have to define us. With awareness, compassion, and the right support, we can finally take our power back. One calm breath, one safe moment at a time. Thank you, Dr. Chris. Thank you, Jean Thompson and Carl Del Spina, for your contribution and kindness. Until next time, I'm Mariette Cameron.